On a gloomy afternoon in the bustling streets of Phoenix, Arizona, where hurried pedestrians wove through the cacophony of honking cars, a man named Lucas Kane sat quietly at the edge of the sidewalk. His worn-out sweater, riddled with holes, did little to shield him from the biting early winter breeze. His tattered, dust-covered shoes bore silent testimony to a long and arduous journey. Propped against his knees was a piece of cardboard with a hastily scrawled message in marker, "Hungry. Please help." Lucas's life hadn't always been this way. A decade earlier, he had run a small auto repair shop. But a cascade of misfortunes, a devastating storm that wrecked his shop, mounting medical bills from his wife's terminal illness, and ultimately losing their home had pushed Lucas to rock bottom. With no family to lean on, he had learned to survive day by day, alone in a world that seemed to have turned its back on him. Most people hurried past without sparing him a glance, or if they did, their eyes quickly darted away in awkward discomfort. But today felt different. As Lucas watched the traffic pause at a red light, his gaze was drawn to a metallic blue Tesla parked nearby. At first, he thought nothing of it. Luxury cars were not unusual in this part of town. But when the window of the car slowly rolled down, Lucas's breath caught in his throat. He squinted, trying to make out the reflection on the glossy glass. There, unmistakably, was the face of Elon Musk, the world-renowned visionary whose innovations had reshaped the future right in front of him. Lucas inhaled deeply, a mix of fear and hope surging through his veins. Should he approach? Should he say something? Before he could think it through, his legs moved on their own. With each hesitant step toward the car, doubts swirled in his mind. What if he ignores me? What if he brushes me off? Reaching the car, Lucas tapped gently on the window. His voice was hoarse and trembling as he said, "Sir, could you spare $1?" The air seemed to still. Lucas braced himself for the usual cold indifference, but Musk's reaction was unlike anything he expected. Instead of turning away, Musk opened the car door and stepped out. "What did you say?" Musk asked, his tone neither condescending nor amused, but genuinely curious. Lucas froze for a moment, stunned by the response. I just asked if you could spare $1, he stammered, his voice shaky and tinged with embarrassment. Elon studied him for a moment, his eyes scanning Lucas from head to toe. "Just $1, Musk repeated, as though weighing the peculiar request. Lucas lowered his gaze, heat rising to his cheeks. "I figured, if I asked for less, people might be more likely to say yes," he admitted quietly. Musk let out a soft chuckle, not mocking but intrigued. Most people would ask for as much as they could get, he remarked, almost to himself, as though mulling over the psychology of desperation. Lucas shuffled uncomfortably, unsure of how to respond. But before he could speak again, Musk stepped closer, his voice lowering to a near whisper. "Do you really think $1 could change anything?" The question struck Lucas like a thunderbolt. He hesitated, unsure how to answer. $1 wouldn't change his life, but it could buy him a meal, a brief reprieve from the relentless hunger that gnawed at him day and night. "I suppose not," Lucas admitted, his voice barely audible. "But sometimes, just a little can be enough to keep going." Musk nodded, his expression contemplative. After a pause, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a crisp $100 bill, handing it to Lucas. Lucas stared at the bill, his eyes wide with disbelief. He couldn't fathom what was happening. This wasn't just $1, this was an entire lifeline. "This is a lifeline," Lucas Kane stammered, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know what to say." Elon Musk wasn't finished. He placed a firm but gentle hand on Lucas's shoulder, his piercing gaze locking onto Lucas as if to ground him in the moment. "I want to ask you something," Musk said, his tone calm yet weighty. "If you could do anything to change your situation, anything at all, what would it be?" Lucas froze, blindsided by the question. This wasn't a casual inquiry. It felt like a spotlight cutting straight through to his soul. His fingers trembled as he clutched the crisp $100 bill, his eyes fixed on it, his mind a chaotic whirl of disbelief and gratitude. Musk's question hung in the air like a challenge, demanding absolute honesty. Furrowing his brow, Lucas repeated the question in a whisper, as if asking himself, what would I do to change my situation? Slowly, he raised his gaze to meet Musk's unwavering eyes. There was no rush, no judgment, but also no room for evasion. Lucas exhaled deeply, memories of pain and loss flashing through his mind. I would start over, he said finally, his voice quiet but laden with raw truth. Find a place to stay, clean myself up, and maybe, just maybe, get a stable job. I just need a chance, a real chance. Musk's expression remained steady, but his eyes seemed to glimmer with something unspoken. Start over, he echoed, nodding slowly. That's a good answer. Lucas felt a pang of self-doubt. Is it really a good answer? He wondered silently, or just the only one I could come up with? But before doubt could take root, Musk leaned casually against the car, crossing his arms as though settling in for a meaningful discussion. What's holding you back? Musk asked, his voice soft but cutting through like a blade. Lucas hesitated, the weight of the answer bearing down on him. Saying it out loud felt like admitting defeat. Money, he said at last, his gaze dropping to the ground. And the system. Once you fall this far, it's almost impossible to climb back up. Musk tilted his head, his expression contemplative. You're not wrong, he said after a brief pause. The system isn't designed to help people like you. It's built to keep everything running as it is. He stopped, his gaze sharpening. But if you had enough resources, just enough to stand up again, do you think you could make it work? Lucas swallowed hard, his throat tightening at the weight of the question. It was both daunting and filled with hope. I think I could, he said, his voice cracking with emotion. I mean, I'd give it everything I've got. I wouldn't waste the chance. Musk studied him intently for a moment before a faint smile crossed his lips. That's what I wanted to hear, he said, his tone softening. Lucas didn't know what to make of Musk's cryptic response. But before he could ask, Musk continued, his voice steady and commanding, demanding attention. You know, Lucas, Musk began, his eyes never leaving Lucas. Most people think success is about big ideas or luck, and sure, those things matter, but more often it's about persistence, getting up every time you're knocked down. From what I can see, you've had plenty of practice with that. Lucas chuckled softly, the sound tinged with bitterness rather than amusement. I guess you're right, he admitted. Musk's smile widened, his eyes glinting with approval. Good, because persistence is the one thing money can't buy, and it's the most important thing of all. The words hit Lucas like a jolt of electricity. He'd spent so long feeling invisible, defined by his failures, that he had almost forgotten the strength it took just to survive. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of pride ignite within him. Straightening up, Musk's demeanor turned resolute. Here's the deal, he said, his voice firm yet kind. I'm going to give you more than money. I'm going to give you a real chance. But what happens next is entirely up to you. Lucas's heart raced. What do you mean? Reaching into his pocket, Musk pulled out a sleek, minimal business card and handed it to Lucas. The card was unadorned. No company logo, no flashy branding, just a phone number and the name Elon Musk. Call this number tomorrow, Musk instructed. Tell them I sent you. They'll know what to do. Lucas gripped the card tightly, his hands trembling. I don't understand. Are you offering me a job? Yes, Musk replied simply. A fresh start. But whether you take it or not is entirely your choice. Lucas's throat tightened as a wave of emotion threatened to overwhelm him. This moment was heavier than anything he'd experienced in years. Musk turned back toward his car, but before climbing in, he paused and looked over his shoulder. Don't waste this, Lucas. Opportunities like this don't come around often. And with that, he drove away, leaving Lucas standing on the sidewalk, clutching the business card that held the key to a new future. Lucas Kane stood frozen at the gates of the Tesla factory, feeling as though he was stepping into an entirely new world. The massive steel gates opened to reveal an expansive compound where the hum of machinery filled the air and sunlight glinted off solar panels under the clear Colorado sky. He clutched his worn-out backpack tightly, a humble possession that carried all his hopes and fears. "Mr. Kane," a gentle voice called from behind him. Lucas turned to see a woman dressed in a pristine Tesla uniform. "Welcome," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Angela, your guide for today." Lucas returned her smile, though his eyes betrayed his nervousness. "Thank you," he replied, his voice rough with emotion. "I'm glad to be here." Angela led him into the heart of the factory, where assembly lines moved with seamless precision, like the synchronized gears of an immense machine. Lucas watched in awe, feeling like a spectator to a modern marvel he never dreamed he'd witness. "This will be your workstation," Angela said, pointing toward an assembly line producing electric vehicle components. "The job can be demanding, but I believe you'll do great." Lucas nodded, his expression firm with determination. "I've faced tougher challenges than this. I'll give it everything I've got." The first few days were grueling. His body ached after long shifts, and his hands often trembled as he tried to master the intricate tasks. Yet, Lucas refused to give in. Each night, as he returned to his modest rented room, he stared at his first paycheck and reminded himself this was only the beginning. Word of Lucas's journey began to spread throughout the factory. At first, his co-workers eyed him with skepticism, curious about the man who seemed to appear out of nowhere. But gradually they saw his relentless dedication. Lucas wasn't just another new hire, he became a symbol of second chances. One evening, Lucas entered a small corner store and spent part of his paycheck on sandwiches and bottled water. He left without a word of explanation, heading instead to a park known for being a haven for the homeless. "Good evening," Lucas greeted as he placed the food in front of them. A young man looked up at him with suspicion. "Who are you?" the man asked. "I'm just someone who used to be in your shoes," Lucas replied, sitting down beside them. He shared his story, from the dark days of his past to the fateful moment when he met Elon Musk. These visits became routine. Lucas didn't just bring food, he brought hope and stories of transformation. "If I could do it," he would tell them, "so can you." Months later, Lucas received an unexpected phone call. "Lucas." Elon Musk's familiar voice resonated through the line. "I've heard about what you've been doing. I'm incredibly proud of you." Lucas's throat tightened, his words caught in his chest. After a pause, he managed, "I'm just trying to give back in my own way." "Then let's make it bigger," Musk said without hesitation. "I want you to lead a special program, a new initiative to help people like you find their way forward. You'll guide them, just as you found your own path." Lucas stood in stunned silence. This wasn't just an opportunity. It was a dream brought to life. "I'd be honored," he finally said, his voice trembling. From that day forward, Lucas's work wasn't just for himself. He became the director of a program called Second Horizon, a beacon for individuals who had lost everything but still yearned for a new start. Whether delivering speeches from a stage or sitting with someone in need, Lucas carried with him the memory of that pivotal moment. The day he knocked on the window of a Tesla and asked for a chance. For Lucas Kane, that moment wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of something far greater. A testament to how kindness and determination could reshape lives and change the world. If this story has touched your heart, we'd love for you to share its message by liking and sharing it with your friends, helping us reach our first milestone of 1,000 subscribers, which means the world to us and allows us to create more meaningful stories for you. Don't forget to share your thoughts about the story and let us know which city you're watching from. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you in our next story.